SOS situations where you send a rescue message out to other people to try to help you, but nobody's going to help you. And a situation like that happened to me at a wedding altar. It's not my wedding altar, but it was my ex-girlfriend's wedding altar, someone I went out with throughout college, and we had kept in touch. I knew she was getting married, but I was a little bit surprised when she called me and she said, would you be in my wedding party? And I said, well, that sounds a bit unorthodox. How does that work? She said, well, I want you to walk my mother, to escort her to her seat. You wear a tux, you may be part of the wedding party. And I said, would you feel comfortable with that? And I said, well, you okay with that? I'm okay with that. And she said, yeah, you're one of my best friends. And so I said, sure. I would feel honored. So everything was set. And then a few months later, I went to a church in suburban New Jersey. Everybody was there. The priest was kind of getting everything in order. I saw the father kind of removed and aloof as I remembered him, and the mother quite lovely, and the bride and groom bustling about and greeting people, and the older sister sort of stern and abrupt also as I remembered her. And they were kind of getting on with walking through the next day's ceremony. And at that point, sorry, I'm blacking out a little bit here. And at that point, I'm really blacking out. I was supposed to have 4 gin and tonics. I had 5, and this is the critical moment. This is the critical moment where it kicks in. But yeah, at that point, I hadn't been to a lot of weddings before, but I had been to my brother's, and he had had a Catholic wedding. And for those of you that know a Catholic wedding, there are a lot of rituals. There's a lot of smoke. There's a lot of wine. There are chalices. There's a lot of sequential movements. And I remember the priest at the time had said, well, if you make any mistakes, if you forget anything, if you drop anything, just do it slowly, and no one will notice, because you will know, but nobody else will know. So in my primitive kind of interpretation of that was that just as long as you make it seem meaningful, it will be meaningful. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter what you actually do. It just matters what it looks like. And so my job was to escort her mom to her seat. I did it. It was done. So I kicked back and just relaxed and was looking off into the distance and just taking everything in. And then suddenly I heard the priest say, would all the members of the wedding party please come to the front? And so I thought, that's me. So I went up to the front. I saw other people who had their jobs going up to the front, and I joined them, and I stood amongst all the other people there. And then a kind of hush fell, and the hush seemed to be around me. And then I looked over, and this kind of wave of awkwardness was coming from the bride and groom, sort of coming at me, and then it hit my side, and then it sort of rippled out into the audience. And I thought, what's going on here? And then the sister sort of said, Austin, could you move over? So I said, oh, sure. And I took a big step over, and I thought everything was fine. I thought they wanted to shoot a picture and make it more symmetrical or something, or make room for somebody else. And then she said, no, over. And she was kind of making very emphatic gestures towards the far wall, or, probably maybe towards the parking lot. And so I sort of realized, I looked over and I saw my ex looking at me, and she was speaking but not saying anything. She was trying to communicate and was just going. And then the preacher was, the priest was sort of wondering where he had lost control of the whole situation. And then the groom was sort of doing this hunched shoulder sort of thing, which was kind of indicating that he wanted to escort me off the platform if I wasn't going to move. So finally I came up with, okay, I'm sorry. And I sort of stepped off to the side and came down on a very long journey down the steps. I realized that I had no business being up there. Nobody wanted me there. I was not needed there. And as I came down, I was sort of looking for some way to fade back into the audience, because I knew that they were thinking that I was some kind of, ex-boyfriend that just could not let go, and at the very last minute was trying to edge my way back into things. And so I came down and I looked into the pews, and I thought I would just sit down with everybody else, and they were just not having me. I saw a wall of people that they did not want me to fade with them. So I kept walking, and I was looking for a place to stop, and I thought maybe in the back I'll have safety. And so I sort of did this meandering, strolling, nonchalant kind of thing and tried to find safety in the back. And I thought that their attention would have returned back to the rehearsal. And I looked up, and I just saw 50 pairs of eyes staring back at me. I thought, this is not a good situation. So I thought to myself, actually I wasn't thinking at that moment, but just it was saying to myself, just keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Moving is good, moving is good. And I went back to the other side of the church, and I found a column and just tried to sort of meld with the column and sort of hide there. And it was like a wounded starfish just trying to kind of merge camouflage itself with some coral. And it was okay. Seemed okay. But then I looked down and I saw her father was sitting right there underneath me. And he could have been cool. He could have just nodded or said nothing, mercifully just left me alone. But instead he looked up at me and he said, "What are you doing?" And so what do you say? I mean, there's no answer. There was no answer that would please him or me or anybody else in the room that was clear. So I remembered that other priest who had said, depends what it looks like. It doesn't matter what you're actually saying. So I went with that. And but it's one thing to say that it doesn't really matter what you say, and then another thing to say things that absolutely don't matter. But I looked down at him and I thought that the most important thing was to reassure everyone they're not dealing with a wedding terrorist situation. And so I just said to him, what am I doing? What am I doing? That's a great question. I was over there, and it was just not really the place for me. So I decided to kind of come, bada boom, bada bing, bada bing, and then come over here. And now I'm here. Now we're talking. Life is funny, huh? It's funny. But so that's what I'm doing. But what are you doing? How are you doing? You're looking good. You're looking really good. But I'm probably being too loud. Let's talk later. And I successfully, I think, reassured people that they were not dealing with an unstable psycho ex-boyfriend who had unresolved issues. But along the way, I think I absolutely let her father think that I was an unstable ex-boyfriend with unresolved issues. And then later afterwards, I saw my ex, and she said, I'm sorry. And I said, I thought I was in the wedding party. And she said, well, you are. You are in the party, but you're just not in the, you're not in the party, the formal party, And I said, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. And so I searched for a way to put a positive spin on it, and I just told her, a lot of people, when they're asked what their most embarrassing experience is, they kind of scratch their heads and they don't really know. But now I will always know, always. So thank you for that gift. Hey.